Hi, welcome to Let's Make Cake. I am your host, Michelle Pyle. And yeah, so this is my first live streaming on YouTube. So giving this a shot. Hopefully the sound is okay, but I will work on that as we get going. So yeah, welcome if you found this video and you're watching. Super happy to have you here. This is my passion project that I've been working on for a long time, and really just want to get my voice out there and try to connect with others who are possibly struggling with depression or anxiety. That's something I struggled with most of my life, and I finally overcame depression and anxiety and made a new life for myself. And so I want to talk about how I did that. And I created this whole program that's really my philosophy for how to get better. Yeah, so that's what I'll be talking about. We'll see how long this goes for. But I like to think of what I had wished had happened to me when I was in my early 20s, or honestly, even in high school would have been nice, because I've actually started seeing a therapist actually in third grade. So that would have been even better if it had happened in third grade. But was for a doctor or a therapist or a psychologist, psychiatrist, any of the 8,000 people I saw through the years, was for one of them to just come to me and say, or when I came to them and say, here's your prescription for getting better. Like, if you actually want to overcome depression and anxiety, we know how to do it. If you do these 30 things, you consistently over time, you will get better. That never happened to me. It always was just kind of became this thing where it was like, this is who you are, and you're just going to have to live with this. And yeah, that kind of sucks because you don't have to live that way. It's not who you are. So that's kind of why I am wanting to do this project, is to help the 20-year-old out there who's like, I don't want to be this way. Can somebody help me? And maybe you've gone to a therapist, or you've gone to a psychiatrist, or you've gone to a doctor. And they are definitely part of the getting better, package. But just to have somebody say, like, look, do these 30 things. And if you do them consistently and over time, you can overcome this. I think it becomes too much of, this is your identity. It's not your identity. You don't have to live with it. And I am sort of living proof of that. So yeah, there's 3 components. It's overcoming depression, overcoming anxiety, and making a new life. And I am actually in the process of making a new life. So I'm going to talk a lot about that. I'll also talk about how I overcame my depression, how I overcame anxiety. But yeah, I am currently living in Italy, so I'll talk all about that. I'm married, which is insane. I never thought I would get married because I was someone who was, quote unquote, just a depressed person. And that was sort of what I was made to believe was who I was. And how can a depressed person, make a life that is fulfilling and includes, a healthy, committed relationship, let alone all the other components that go along with that. So yeah, I'm just going to be talking about that. I'm like nervous because like being on camera is not my favorite thing in the world, but I have a real passion to want to help others just because I went through it. And I can see all the gaps in the care that's available out there, and I want to help fill that gap. One of the things when I was going through it in different phases of being super depressed was just like, I just needed somebody to talk to me every day and be like, you can do this, you can get through this. So I want to kind of be that voice here on the internet. As someone who was born in the 80s, 1980, this is not easy for me, but I really do want this to become a place where you guys can show up. I'm here, we can talk and connect and just talk about how to overcome this, because you don't have to live with depression. You don't have to live with anxiety, and you can make a new life that you want to do. So yeah, let me just check in with my notes here and see how I'm doing. So far, so good. I will talk a lot. I read a ton. I watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies. So a lot of my references are going to be articles I've read, movies, books, TV. Um, there is like so much out there. So I think that's actually really awesome. There's no lack of people talking about this stuff. So I'm just going to dive right in. This is an article I was reading. It says here January 12th was when it was published. So that would have been, I don't know, a week and a half ago. I'll put a link in the wherever on YouTube I can put a link. So learning all this stuff. But it's by bbc.com, which is something I read every day. And it says, I was prescribed surfing to help my depression. I thought, oh, that's interesting, right? So it's about this girl who was suffering from depression. And she did go see her doctor, which is great. That's where you're supposed to start, right? And her doctor asked her, like, what is something that you do that like brings you happiness? And she said surfing. So she's already kind of a step ahead of some of us in that she could identify something that made her happy. But he said, okay, before we try medication, and this is not an anti-medication message at all, because I've taken medication, it's saved my life. But before you start medication was his plan. I want you to surf every single day. And she's like, okay, I'll do that. She committed, and she said, yeah, it saved, cured her of depression. What's interesting about this article is that it wasn't just that she surfed, it's that she was part of a surfing community. So she was part of a community. She was in nature every day, and you'll hear me talk a lot about nature and how helpful that is in overcoming just the difficulty of being a human being, whether you have depression or not. So she's part of a community. She's in nature. She's exercising. So that's proven to help with depression. And she's doing it every day, right? So that level of commitment. So she's got, and this is one of the things in the Let's Make Cake program, I'm going to talk about all the ingredients separately, of course, as a list. But what you want to do is find things where you can bring multiple ingredients together. So she's got 4 just doing one activity. And I just read this and I was like, oh, this is perfect, because this is the whole concept of Let's Make Cake, is how do you bring these things together so that you're building a life that is, whether it's curing depression, preventing depression, you're doing things in support of that. And so this was just a great article. Let me find a couple quotes here. You should definitely read this article, because hearing other people's stories is so helpful when you want to get better, to just feel like, yeah, I can do this. I'm not the only person. So let me get it here. Talking about other female surfers. So this is interesting. She says, at first she felt like the women's surfing. This is actually really interesting. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but originally she felt like didn't represent her. So women surfing in bikinis and in warm climates, and I just felt like that didn't represent me or my friends who surf all year round and they surf in wetsuits. Then it goes to her, experiencing depression and anxiety, goes to her doctor, telling them she thought she was broken. I think we all feel that way. Like when we experience depression or anxiety, we do feel like something broke inside of me, or like, it's just not, I'm not working. It's not working. Life's not working. That really resonated with me. It's just so, I love reading other people's stories, because you're just like, okay, I'm not the only one. So yeah, her doctor prescribed surfing. Yeah, so she sorry, so she oh, right, so this is where connecting back to the surfers who didn't represent her, she began Daughters of the Sea, a surf club for women. So she was like, I'm part of this community, but it doesn't fully represent me yet. And so she started her own community and said, let's start something where it's women who are surfing year round in wetsuits. And so that's really, so she actually had just, she's amazing that she did this. So she knew, like, I want to be part of a community. One doesn't currently exist, so I'll start one. That's not easy, right? Like, it's a lot easier to find a community and just join. But if you do feel like, that's not out there, I feel that way all the time. If you can start your own. So she took the surfing hobby, made a community that was better representative of what she felt, she identified with. Um, and yeah, so it's just a really great story for those different reasons. And yeah, I love that her doctor prescribed her surfing, right? Or that even took the time to say, is there anything you do that brings you joy? Literally never had a doctor ask me that, or a therapist or a psychiatrist. Maybe you have, and that's awesome. But yeah, I think that's really important. So that's cool. But yeah, so her story kind of factors in several ingredients that I talk about in the Let's Make Cake program: exercise, nature, community, and consistency. And that for a while she did it every day. I don't know if she still does, because that's obviously a huge commitment. But yeah, so that's a really great story. And then it reminded me of a TV show I watched. So I'll reference lots of TV shows because I think they're actually really helpful. Season 1 of The White Lotus. So if you have a chance to watch this, it's really a great show. But what I like most in this season 1, there's a character. He's the son of like a mom and dad who are the main kind of characters of the show. And in the beginning, he's just kind of seen by his family members as like a stoner, lazy, not interested in life. His parents are just like, what's wrong with you? His sister is like, you're annoying. And if you have depression or anxiety, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, he is suffering from depression and anxiety, but he's surrounded by people that don't recognize that. And I really related to that too, because a lot of times the way depression and anxiety look is not like, the textbook example of depression and anxiety, right? It's someone who's just appears to not care about life. But it's really hard to care about life if you're depressed. You get that if you have depression, but people around you don't necessarily understand that. They just are like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you, participating in life? It's also, and this is what I think is even more interesting, he ends up, I don't totally remember how, I haven't watched the show for a couple of years, but meeting this group of people who do some, and I apologize, it's native to the Hawaiian culture, and I don't know exactly what it's called, but they're on the water and they're rowing. And he ends up joining these guys, and he's there every morning, right? And it's similar to the surfer story. So now he's part of a community, right? It's this group of guys who get together every day. They're out on the ocean rowing some sort of canoe-like boat. But it's community, it's exercise, it's nature, and it's every day. And suddenly, right, this kid comes alive. So part of it is, in the surfer story, she already knew that she liked surfing, and that was something she identified. And that's amazing. And here's this kid, he didn't have anything. He just happened to be on vacation in Hawaii with his family, happened to come across a local who, I don't know, introduced him to this. Again, I don't remember the details because it's a couple years since I watched it. Right? Like pure luck, pure chance that this happened. But suddenly he's found something that he can do that he identifies with. And I think that's really important because you might be in a situation, this was me. I feel like gotta love your family, but they might not be the ones, or your current life, even. Let's not blame the family, but his current life, whoever he had been come across up to this point, there was nothing he identified with. Not baseball, not the chess club, not, there was no group that he felt like this represents me and I want to be a part of this community. And that's really important because you have to search, right? You have to search for it. When I was a kid, it's like I fundamentally knew like I need to be part of some kind of group. Tried sports, tried basketball, volleyball, tennis, track, not athletic. So that didn't work. I was desperate, right? I need to belong to some group. I need a thing that I do regularly, separate from my family, separate from school. It was like I knew that, but I couldn't find it. And then they're like, okay, try debate. That was even worse for someone who doesn't want anyone looking at them ever. Then theater, okay, just as bad. So it's like I kept trying, right? But never could find that community. It's the reason sororities and fraternities exist, right? So you go off to college and you're in this completely new environment. It's a great way to be like, here's like a built-in group you can be a part of, right? But what if you're not into sororities or fraternities, which of course I wasn't because I was different. And yeah, so there is something out there, right? And this kid experienced that. It's a TV show, I know, but I don't know. There's still storytelling, and I think there's value in that. And yeah, so he comes back to life just like that. And his family's like, oh, this is crazy. And then they are like, okay, we're going back home now. And he's like, nope, hard pass. I'm going to stay here with this new community that I, have found. And it's really interesting because your family is like a community that you're obviously a part of, but it's not the only one, right? You can go and find another community where you feel your values align more or whatever. All this saying, this does impact depression and anxiety, right? Like belonging, feeling like I'm part of something and they understand me and I understand them. Add into that, you're in nature, you're exercising, it's consistent. That right there is a recipe for overcoming depression and anxiety. Now, it's just hard to find that. I would say I don't know that I ever found it. Which I don't say that to discourage you. I'm just saying like it is hard. I would love, maybe I need to start my own community here in Italy. It's harder now because obviously I don't speak the language yet, so it's hard to join existing groups. But so I'm still kind of struggling with this aspect, which maybe is why I'm introducing the topic, because selfishly, like doing this allows me to sort of talk about my experience and things I'm currently going through. I did try to join a group called, because I knew like I fundamentally understand like you have to be part of groups. Like it just helps you not fall back into depression, and helps you feel like you're a part of life and that you're living life fully, as we all should be. So I found a group. It was called Internation. So it's for expats, living in other countries. It's worldwide. And that was great. But it was like an hour and 40-minute train ride to get to the group. And then they meet on evenings. So I would have to get a hotel. So that kind of fell apart. Well, I stopped going. It didn't fall apart. The group still meets. But I stopped going. But I recently started language classes. And that does have kind of a similar feeling where you're getting together with this group of people around a common purpose, right? Like whether it's surfing or this guy in White Lotus who is, I really should have looked up what it's called, rowing on the ocean. Ours is learning another language, right? So you're coming together around a common purpose. And so you immediately have something in common and something to talk about. It's consistent, right? So we meet twice a week, and that has helped a lot. So I don't know what is out there for you, but it is super important to search to find it. And if it doesn't exist, and this might be something I do, to start your own, right? Like maybe I have to start a club that's for expats living where I live, so you don't have to take a almost 2-hour train ride. Because it's important to come together with a group of people around a common purpose that's not related, to mental health, right? It's not group therapy, but you're experiencing life together. Yeah, and you get like a rhythm to the group, and you get to know each other, and yeah, it's just super, super important. So that I will keep talking about that because I'm sort of curious for myself. So just I don't know what maybe you've moved to a new city, or you've started school, or you're recently divorced. There's all a million things where you can end up being like, oh, I kind of like I'm just out here by myself, right? Or maybe you have a job but you don't feel connected to the people you work with. Maybe you're surrounded by family, but you feel like they don't understand you and you don't understand them. Finding that a group of people where you can come together regularly over something, whatever it is, right? Whether it's surfing or some other exercise. I know there's like, my brother-in-law is super into pickleball. There's an idea. Or me, a language school. I'm going to have to find something else. I know the language class is not going to be enough because it ends, right? Like it would be nice to be a part of something that's ongoing. So I'll keep talking about that because this is fundamental to, for me, staying depression free, right? So whether it gets you out of depression or it prevents depression, and feeling like I have a life that's a life that I want. And that's what I like about the White Lotus season 1. If you get a chance to watch it, this kid is amazing, right? He starts out and everyone just thinks he's a loser. But if you've had depression or anxiety, you know what's happening inside. He doesn't feel like I belong to anything that I'm surrounded by. And like that feeling is so like that resonated with me so much. Like, right, why would you get out of bed? Why would you go out there if you're just like, none of this speaks to me? That feeling of just being like, oh God, this can't be it. So I'm just he smoked marijuana. Maybe it's alcohol or whatever, but you're just or maybe it's sleeping and binging Netflix, right? But you're just escaping because you feel no reason to like get out there. You have no place to go. That's like a very real feeling. And that, whether depression causes that or that causes depression, it's like the chicken and the egg thing. I don't think we can totally answer that question. I don't even think it's relevant to answer that question. You have to be a part of some kind of group. That's like the number one thing, at least on my mind right now. I don't want to like give a hierarchy to these things, but because they're all important. And I'll talk about all the ingredients to making your cake, which is just getting over depression, anxiety, and making a life where you wake up every day and you're like, yes, this is awesome. And when you go to bed at night, you're like, oh, that was a great day. Or when challenges come, you're like, I can face this. Or you know how to deal with sorrow and pain and stress, right? It's not just that every day is amazing. But yeah, you have to be part of a group. Like I'm married, right? So I was like, oh, I'm married, I'm good. Not wrong. You still have to be part of something. One person can't be everything. Even if they're amazing, and my husband's amazing, I still need a group of people to, experience life with. So yeah, that is kind of my message for today. It's just so like, if you find yourself, so just going back to where I was, where you're like, yeah, I need that. That's step one, is recognizing that you need it. The hard part is finding it. I mean, it is surprisingly difficult. I don't know why. I don't know why more groups don't or it seems like more groups don't exist. So you might have to start something yourself, like the surfer girl did, where yeah, there was another surfer club, but she didn't identify with them, so she started her own, which might be a heavy lift depending on where you're at with your depression, and anxiety. And I'll be talking about my own experience because I'm, needing to find something for myself. So maybe we can share experiences because I definitely want to hear from you guys. So I got to get an email set up so that you can send me emails because I want this to, as much as possible. I want a two-way conversation. I know this is a video, but for me, the whole reason to do this is to be helpful. So if I can hear from you directly, that would be super awesome. So that we can, share experiences. So I will bring up another show that I'm watching right now. I just started a couple days ago. It's not like my favorite show, but I'm kind of desperate because I canceled my Netflix account in hopes that I would stop watching so much TV because I do still watch a lot of TV. One, I grew up with television, so it's super comforting to watch television. But it's also a crutch. So I'm like, oh, I don't have to deal with life. I'll just turn on Netflix, right? That would be great. Anyway, I canceled Netflix, so I'm on Amazon Prime. When you're in Italy, it's not the same Amazon Prime as what you have in the United States. So that was a fun thing to learn when you finally pick a show and you turn it on and it's only available in Italian. Even though it's an American show that was filmed originally in English. I don't riddle me that one. Anyway, the show's called Elementary. I don't know why it's called that. But there's the main characters, like I guess Sherlock Holmes character, detective guy. And he is just moved to New York from London. And apparently he had, I actually don't know if it was drugs or alcohol. So I must not be paying too close attention to this show, but he's recently sober. And he has what's called a sober companion. And I've never heard of this. Maybe they just made it up for the show. I'm not exactly sure. But I was like, oh, this is an amazing concept. I would have loved this when I was deep in depression if I had had a depression companion. So like somebody who is there with you every day, not necessarily 24/7, but is like, okay, here we go. Like morning, we're going to go for a walk. We're going to get some exercise. Okay, what are you doing at noon? Like, are you eating regularly? Like just all the things you need to get better, which I'm going to talk about. Because if therapy was enough, we'd all be better. And we're not. Depression is skyrocketing. Suicidal rates are not great. They're just going up. Anxiety is going up. everyone wants to blame this guy, but as someone who didn't grow up with this, I can tell you this is not why I have depression and anxiety. So I'm not saying, I'll talk about, how not to be on your phone and social media and stuff like that, because it can exacerbate the problem. But sorry, going back to the sober companion, I could have really used somebody like that, just a support system daily. And so I kind of want to try to be that for people. So I know this is just right, like a live stream that I'll do. I'm thinking every day, at least Monday through Friday. I don't know yet about the weekends, but to be here and be like, if you're in what I call the pit of depression, you need someone every day. Like, you can do this. You can get better, right? It is possible. I'm living proof of that. Like I said, saw my first therapist in the 3rd grade. Like, wasn't well, was not okay up here. And I was convinced, like, this is just who you are, right? Like, you're just a sad, depressed person. You're never going to function in life normally, whatever that means. And it's not true. Like, I'm better. I still can't believe it sometimes. Not perfect, still figuring out the making life part, because when you do live with depression long term, right, like I have to like learn how to like be friends with people, because when you had depression growing up, your friendship stopped and started like all the time, right? Get a friend, get depressed, lose a friend, and that cycle just repeated endlessly. So you are like, now I have to develop skills that other people have who maybe didn't have that same experience. And that's okay. It's totally possible. You can learn new skills, which is great. But yeah, I could have really used someone who every day was just like checking in, like, and reminding me, like, you can do this, right? So, like, if you've decided, okay, I'm going to do these 5 things, for the next 6 weeks to get better, whatever they are, and I'll talk about my recommendations, but I'm sure you have your own. You're probably out there reading about this stuff all the time. But someone to say, like, you can do this. Get up, get out of bed, tackle it. You've got this. It's totally possible. I'm not the only one who's overcome depression and anxiety. You can do this. A sober companion, depression companion would be amazing, right? If we had endless pools of money and I could actually call you and talk to you every day, I would do that. Because I think that helps so much. Like, therapy is critical and it's important, but when you're really in that pit of depression, those appointments feel like lifetime apart. It's like if you go in on Tuesday and then you have to wait till the following Tuesday, like the days in between, everything can fall apart, is how it feels. So I've, as I've been thinking about this Let's Make Cake program, I was like, okay, how can I actually like help people? Like, I thought, okay, what did I need? And I needed someone to talk to me every single day. Like, you can do this. I did it. I'm living proof. Surfer girl who was depressed and anxious and was like, help, like, to her doctor, like, I'm not okay. I'm broken. Remember, she was like, something is broken in me. Got that surfer club going so that she had something every single day. We need that. We need to know every day, you can do this. You're not alone. And so I kind of want to be that for you. Right now, this is one way, but trying to figure out how to make it more two-way is really, really important to me. I'm not looking to reach thousands of people, but if there's half a dozen of you out there who want to like be a part of this, um, that would be awesome because I really want to help. I want to help you. I want to bring you stuff that I did. I want to bring you stories of what other people did to inspire you. And yeah, just you don't have to live with depression and anxiety. I literally never had a therapist say that. Like, you don't have to live with it. You don't have to. You have to do concrete steps to get over it. But they're known. The steps are known. They're real. They're doable. You don't need $1 million. This is totally possible. You don't have to live with depression and anxiety. Uh, and that's just really, really important message I want to get across today, because that's why I'm here. I am not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. So I'm not going to pretend that I am. This is something different, right? So keep seeing your therapist. They're super important. They have tangible skills to help you get better. This is more just support, inspiration, a place to come every day and be like, we can do this. Yeah. And so check out that article. I'll post it. Check out season 1 of The White Lotus. I mean, it's a wild show. So, keep that in mind. But I think it's really like, I really resonated with the character, even though I was never like a stoner. I certainly abused alcohol. So, as a way to escape. But that feeling of, he's surrounded by family, but he's not okay. And they don't know what to do with him. They have no idea. They love him, but they're just like, what's wrong with you? And that is like my story. Like, my poor family, they didn't know what to do. I couldn't articulate to them what to do. That's so, I feel like a lot of us know that feeling. So it's really cool to see it in a TV show. This kid just be like, yeah, not okay. I'm not okay. He never says it, but you can see it. My family doesn't understand me. And then he just by chance meets this group of people and gets better. Because he joins them. Right. So, like, I don't know. I just think that's really cool. So check that out. And yeah, I will be here hopefully, Monday through Friday. I'll see about the weekend. I'm not super busy right now. We have a puppy, so we're not really traveling or anything. Yeah, getting a puppy is like, well, it's not like having a baby, but kind of like you can't leave her alone, like potty training, all that stuff. But yeah, I just want this to be a place where you can come and we can talk. And I'll have always TV references, movie references, articles. I read a ton. I think there's so much out there. And then I'm going to talk about the cake philosophy. That's, kind of my goal one day is to create a program. I was going to start with that, but I felt like I am still kind of flushing that out. So I'll come here and talk about it. Of course, that the general idea of Let's Make Cake is that you want to make something, right? It's like, yeah, I want to get better, but why? Because I want to make a life. If it's just getting better, that's not super motivating. You want a life, right? Like, I want to wake up and be like, my life is great. It's amazing. I'm healthy. I'm happy. And so that was kind of the idea. And it's, what are the ingredients to get there? So this concept came to me when I was in the depths of the depression yet again. This was a few years ago now. And it just popped into my head, let's make cake. And I kind of sat down and I was like, all right, so I'm making something. I kind of just drew a cake to get myself an image. And then I was like, what are the ingredients I need to get better? And so I just started writing down, right? Like therapy, exercise, like the different things. And then I started, as I was out there reading, I started plugging that into this idea of the cake, right? So this is another element of how I'm going to get better. And it worked. I'm better. I, again, sometimes wake up and I can't believe it. I lived with depression basically my whole life. So for me, I was just like, that's who I am. So I feel like if I can get better, you can definitely get better. Because it's all I knew, right? That's all I knew was depression. I mean, not 24/7, 365. Obviously, I had periods of not being depressed, but it always came back and knocked me down and knocked my life, knocked the pieces off the board, start over from scratch. So yeah, if I can get better, you can get better for sure. So yeah, check out, I'll post that article about the surfer girl, which is, I think, super inspiring. It's a really short read. White Lotus season 1. Elementary, the TV show. I don't know. It's not the greatest show ever, but this Sober Companion is really cool because if you watch it and you know what it feels like to live with depression, it's like, yeah, boy, I'd love to have somebody every day in my life just be there and be like, okay, you got this, you can do this, you got this. Like a coach almost, which is very different from therapy. A therapist can't be there every day. I used to be, because I knew I needed that daily thing. And it was like, well, you can check yourself in somewhere. No, don't. Someone with anxiety, don't want to do that. Don't want to do anything that resembles jail. That will just send me into panic mode. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone can start a business someday of depression companions because you need that daily reinforcement. It's every day, right? And I'll be that as much as I can for you. And I know you've probably got people in your life, whether they know they're doing it or not. But yeah, it's really important to not feel totally isolated and alone. I know that feeling. I've been there. When it feels like nobody understands. I understand. There's a lot of people out there who understand. We're not connected. That's part of the problem with depression and anxiety. It's super isolating. Just, by its nature, we withdraw. So I'm here. So we can talk every day. I'm going to get that email set up because I would love to hear from you. I'd love for you to write and share or ask questions. But we'll just talk every day. Because yeah, you can overcome this. And then the other thing is, because I'm going to talk about how to get over it. That's kind of my main mission, right? You're not going to watch me forever, which is not a great business model. But my goal is, right, do this for, maybe it takes 6 months. I don't know. Everybody's different. And then stop, like, go, bye, you're done. This is a temporary thing. I'm temporary. I am a temporary part of your life. I want you to get better, make a new life for yourself, and then say goodbye to Michelle. So that's my goal. This isn't, you don't need to do this forever, right? Like, I just don't believe that. I don't believe in therapy forever. I think if you are in therapy forever, like, get a new therapist because you shouldn't be doing that, right? We're meant to, develop new habits, develop new skills, heal from trauma, make a new life, go live. I think that's really important. This isn't a lifelong thing. You're not going to have to. I actually hesitated to even do this Let's Make Cake because part of me was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm better. Like, I don't want to think about it. But in my heart, like, my motivation when I get up every day is to help others. And the way I know to help others is based on my experience. So that's people who have depression and anxiety. So I'm going to keep talking about it in order to help you if you're out there listening. Yeah, because I've been there. So it's possible to get better. I wish someone had told me that. I wish one person had said, you don't have to live like this. We know how to help people. Like they know, they being all the doctors, all the psychologists, all the therapists, all the schools, they know how to do this. They know how to fix depression and anxiety. I don't know why someone hasn't said, you can get better. Here's how, here's your roadmap. If you do these things, you will get better. I mean, I guess you can't guarantee it, right? Because there's always, I guess, the 1% or whatever, but probably you will get better if you do these things. Marching orders, right? A prescription, a recipe. That's kind of my philosophy because I'm not a doctor. Can't write you a prescription. But I can talk about a recipe for getting better and for making a new life, which is probably what you need. And that's something we'll talk a lot about too, is it is a chicken and egg, right? Which came first? Was it my crappy life that caused depression, or did the depression cause me to end up with a crappy life? And it's probably some combination therein. But we're going to talk about that too. So let me see if there's anything I missed, because I do try to kind of outline what I'm going to talk about. This is new to me, so I appreciate this first episode. I don't know, this first video. Yeah, I kind of covered everything. So if you did find me and you are listening to this, thank you for listening. In the next video, I'll have that email set up. I don't love technology, but I'm getting there. I mean, I know how to use email. So if you send me an email, I will get it and I will read it and I will reply. But hopefully I'll have that email address on the next video. So again, thank you for watching. Welcome to Let's Make Cake. This is going to be a great place to meet every day, to feel encouraged, inspired, to learn, and to just know you're not alone. So I really appreciate you listening, and I will see you next time. Ciao.